Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we have already done the best of drugstore 2018, so we are here to talk about all the rest. So this is the best of mid to high end beauty of 2018. So if that is something you're interested in watching, then you are in the right place. We're about to get into it.
I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf.
Right, guys, so we have already talked about the best in drugstore for 2018, and now it is time to talk about the best of mid to high-end beauty for 2018. Whoa. Okay, guys, editing Erica here. There is something on my right eye. I think it's mascara. It's annoying as hell, but I think we're going to have to stare at it for the rest of this video. Mainly because I'm not re-recording a 45-minute video. Sorry for the interruption. Let's get back to it. Keep in mind, this is my most used products in this category for this past year. So by all means, it doesn't mean like it's the absolute best of the best. Some of these things I think have probably even been out longer than a year. So these are just my most reached for products out of this category for 2018. Let's start with priming. And two of these are probably going to be, well, one won't be a surprise if you've watched a recent video, but I have fallen in love with the Bye Bye Pores Primer by IT Cosmetics. If you guys haven't seen this video, I would recommend that you go back and take a look at it. I have talked about this in length in that video, so definitely go check that out. This has been lately the only thing that I have reached for and put on my face. And then my second most reached for product, and this one I actually got from my husband as a gift, believe it or not. There is a company out there called VDL, and you can find them on Beautylish, and they actually have a couple of different primers. This one is one that I really like. It comes in this kind of compact form, like a cushion foundation would. And when you open it, it looks like it's a cushion foundation. So you have the applicator pad here, but then you have this metal plate here. And it's just a metal plate right here. And when you push the metal plate down, the primer actually comes through, if you guys can see that there. And what this metal plate does is it cools the primer. When it comes out onto this metal plate, it instantly goes cold. So when you're putting the primer on, it's incredibly refreshing. Not only that, but this is a very radiant primer. So I put this on when I want to have a little bit of a glow going on underneath my foundation, and it is beautiful, you guys. Look at the radiance that it gives. It's just stunning. I love to put it like here on my cheeks. I'll put some down the bridge of my nose, and then I'll put my foundation on over top of it, and it just gives you this beautiful natural glow. And you can see there, and then it just dries down to this perfect feeling. It feels like almost like you've just put a moisturizer on. It also does a lot for fine lines and wrinkles. It's kind of like a spackle in that sense, that it just kind of goes through and fills all that stuff in. It's not so good with controlling oil or anything like that throughout the course of the day, but it is a beautiful perfecting primer, and it looks stunning underneath your foundation. So this one by VDL I reached for quite a bit. I love it. All right, so moving on to foundation. Now this year, this was hard for me. There were a ton of foundations and concealers that came out this year, but I really had to think about what I sit down every day and put on my face when I want to go out and I want to look nice. And that thinking of it that way made it easy for me. There's really two that I reach for just about every time, unless, you know, it's like a special occasion or I want to look a little different, then, you know, I'll dip into some other ones. But my everyday steady eddies, there's really only two. And the first one is an oldie but a goodie, and that's the NARS Sheer Glow Foundation. This is a perfect everyday foundation. Now, I know a lot of people steer away from this because it says sheer glow in the name, but that has nothing to do with the coverage of this particular product. This is actually a medium to full. You could probably build it up to a full coverage, but this is a perfect everyday foundation. It has this gorgeous radiant glow about it that makes it look incredibly natural on the skin. It performs beautifully. I never have to worry about smile lines drying out. I never have to worry about any of that when I have this on. This is one of my most used, most dependable bottles of foundation, and this is actually my third bottle this year, so I use this quite a lot. 9 times out of 10, if you see me out running around, this is what I've got on. And if it's not this one, it's this one. And this is the Dior Skin Forever. This is the original Forever, not the brand new Forever Undercover that just came out. This is the original Dior Forever foundation. I love this foundation, and pretty much for the same reasons. It has kind of the same finish as this one does, and it looks beautiful and incredibly natural on. So these two are like my everyday go-tos. So next up is color correctors. Now for me, I actually found myself kind of steering away from like that peachy orange true color corrector this year, and I found myself going with more of a lighter peach kind of brightening type of corrector before I put my concealer on, and that's a little bit of a change for me. Normally, I would say the Cover FX, the little click stick that comes in peach, is always been my go-to. The click stick comes in a little thingy like this, and you just pop out these little teeny tiny wands that you can buy at Cover FX, and they have one in peach, and this is a beautiful color corrector, but it's just that. It's just a color corrector, so it does really good at canceling out dark circles and just kind of making that area look really nice. But I really got into those type of brightening color correctors this year, and my favorites this year that I reached for above any other is the Kaja Catnap. This is a beautiful formula. Kaja really did a good job with the catnap formula. I love the applicator. It has kind of that ballerina foot applicator on the end, and this formula is stunning on. And catnap is an under eye brightener, but it's also a peach tone, so it does help to cancel out any kind of discoloration that you have on underneath the eyes, and it does exactly what it says it's going to do. It just makes you look really wide awake and fresh for the day. It's a beautiful, light, fluffy kind of formula, and I love this product. Next one that I found myself using quite a bit was one that I rediscovered this year. I used to really like this one, and for some reason I got away from it, and I fell back in love with it this year, and that is the Matte Prep and Prime. And this MAC Prep and Prime is in Bright Forecast, and this is just a kind of the same thing as catnap. It's a color corrector for underneath the eyes, but it has a lot of brightening properties to it. So it's this peach color, but it does just kind of brighten up that whole under eye area and give it this nice rested, beautiful look. And it's also kind of like a primer for underneath the eye as well. It's incredibly hydrating, and concealer looks flawless on top of this. Now, this has been out for quite some time, and it's one of those products that I dug out and used, and you know, it's like, gosh, I've tried so much stuff, why did I ever get away from this? This is a really good product, and I found myself reaching for this a lot this year. All right, next up is concealer, and you guys, this was so hard for me. So, a lot of concealers came out this year, you guys. This seemed like it was the year of concealers, from the new Too Faced formulas. MAC came out with new concealers. There were new concealers coming from everywhere. Charlotte Tilbury had a new one. Huda Beauty had a new one. Cover FX came out with a new one. It was like the year of the concealer. It was genuinely a fantastic thing to see. I love concealers, and I love trying concealers because when I find one that really works for me, that makes me happy because I have a lot of issues underneath my eyes. So I love a good concealer. So when thinking about this, I narrowed it down to 2, and it was really difficult, but I had to just think again to myself, what are those concealers that you reach for every day that you use more than any other concealer? And that's what I have here. And number 1 is the Kaja concealer in Don't Settle. So we already talked about the brightening formula that Kaja has, and their Don't Settle concealer is just as stunning, and it's exactly what the name implies. It doesn't settle, so it doesn't settle into your fine lines. You don't really have to worry about a lot of creasing. You definitely don't have to worry about any caking with this particular product. It is a gorgeous formula. It just goes on so smooth. This is a worry-free concealer. I know that if I'm wearing this, I don't have to worry about my concealer for the remainder of the day, and it's going to look beautiful. I love this formula, so I reached for this a lot. And then on those nights where I wanted a little bit higher intensity when it comes to coverage, in other words, I wanted something that had a lot of pigment in the concealer, I reached for the Jouer. When the Jouer came out with the, this is like their high essential coverage concealer, I think it's called. What is this called? This is the Essential High Coverage Liquid Concealer. This concealer is everything for me because it's infused with hyaluronic acid and it has such an intense amount of pigment in it. It really suits all of my under eye issues. I have very dry under eyes. I have very dark circles, so something that has a lot of pigment in it is fantastic for me. And when I wear this formula, I genuinely feel like my under eyes aren't dry throughout the night. You know how sometimes your under eyes will start feeling a little dry, especially if you've put powder underneath there, and then you'll start seeing that kind of creasing and a little bit of caking going on. That never happens with this formula. Number 1. Number 2, the amount of pigment in this formula is ridiculous. You could cover a face tattoo with this stuff, and a little bit goes a really long way. So when I needed that extra coverage, this is what I reached for. So I wore the Kaja pretty much on the daily, just for normal daily stuff, any kind of event or anything that I had to go to where I wanted to dress up, where I wanted to film. The Jouer is what I reached for. So these 2 are my most used concealers out of all the concealers that launched this year. These are the 2 I reach for the most. All right, next up, we're going to talk about powder. This one I actually probably should have covered in the foundation portion of this video, but I'm going to talk about it now, and this is actually a powder foundation. You guys have heard me talk about this before. This is the Wanderlust Powder Foundation by Wander Beauty. This is by far the most beautiful powder foundation that I have ever used. It looks so gorgeous on the skin, and especially once you really buff it into the skin like a foundation and then you set your face with setting spray, this formula looks like skin and gives you the coverage of a foundation. If I am running out the door and I don't have time to do a whole full face of foundation, this is what I reach for, and I get so many compliments on my skin when I am wearing this. This is by far the best powder foundation I've ever used, and we use this a lot in the shop as well. This is a favorite. This is a really good product, and I should have put this in the foundation portion of this, but I'm going to stick it in the powder portion of this particular favorites video because I love it. There is a video in my library going over this product in detail. Feel free to go check it out. It's absolutely worth it. When it comes to pressed powders, there's really only one mid to high-end powder that I reach for, and that is not going to be a surprise to anybody. It's the Airbrush Flawless Finish by Charlotte Tilbury, and it's because this is probably the most finely milled pressed powder that I've ever used. And I have two. I've already hit pan on this one. This is a stunning formula. It looks beautiful on the skin. It doesn't look powdery. My sister actually uses this to set underneath her eyes, and it looks gorgeous. This is my favorite, most used pressed powder of this past year. I would say by a long shot. Now, I'm actually a setting powder fanatic. I really like to try and test out different setting powders because I feel like when you find a setting powder that really, really works, it can really transform your makeup game and the way that your face looks. So I try a lot of setting powders, and there were a lot of setting powders launched this year. Milk Makeup came out with a brand new one. Lawless Beauty came out with a brand new one. A lot of people came out with a brand new setting powder this year. My favorite and my most reached for setting powder came down to two. These two are my most reached for, and these are the ones that I depend on not to let me down on a daily basis. The first one is by the Beauty Bakery, and this is the Flower Setting Powder. Now, this is in the color yellow because I love to dust this underneath my eyes because of the brightening properties of it. This is one of my most reached for under eye setting powders that I have. This is my second one of these this year. It's incredibly finely milled. It's a gorgeous formula. You guys have heard me talk about it before. I have a video on this one as well, but this is definitely top shelf, what I reach for every time I need to set my concealer. Definitely. As far as setting the face and finishing the face and kind of setting everything that I've done everywhere else on my face, that's going to have to be the Charlotte Tilbury Genius Powder. Now, there is one downside to this. It smells awful. One thing I can say, though, is when you put it on the face, the smell is gone and you don't really smell it anymore. Thank goodness, because for whatever reason, this stuff just has a funk to it, and I don't know what it is. It's got to be one or two of the ingredients in here, but the ingredients list for this powder is one of the most incredible ingredients lists that I've ever seen. It's got everything in it from squalene to hyaluronic acid. It has so much infused into this powder, and it really shows when you put it on the skin. It sets your foundation beautifully. It looks stunning on the skin. I personally don't like this underneath my eyes, but I do love it on the rest of my face, and I can depend on my makeup staying put when I use this. So I use this under my eyes and I use this on my face, and these are my most used out of this past year. Alright, so next we're going to talk about contour products, and these are my two most reached for products when it comes to mid to high end and using them to actually contour my face, whether it's the sides of my nose, contouring my cheekbones, doing maybe my jawline up here along my hairline, anything that I need to contour. I'm usually reaching for one of these two products. The first one is the Charlotte Tilbury Film Star Bronze and Glow, and it's because I love this contour powder so much. It's like the perfect tone. I reach for this a lot, especially when it comes to nose contour. And then my other contour that I use is actually a cream contour, and you've heard me talk about it. It's her contour wand, and again, it's because of the tone of this. I love this for a cheek contour or a jawline contour. This is a cream product, so you put this on before you set your face, right after you've put your foundation on, and it blends so seamlessly into the skin, and it looks so good on. It really does just look like a shadow on the face. I love this. I love this product. So one of these two is what I reach for most often to contour. Now, when it comes to bronzing or kind of warming up the skin, This one was hard for me because I actually do really like to try a lot of different bronzers because they have different looks to them. Some of them are a little more warm than others. If I'm wearing kind of, you know, a t-shirt and shorts and it's warm outside and you want to really bronze it up, that's not the same thing that I would reach for if, you know, I was all bundled up in a sweater going out in sweater weather and it's kind of cold outside. I still want to warm up my face a little bit, but maybe not as much. So I use a lot of different bronzers on a daily basis. So this one was hard for me. One of my most reached for steady eddies that I use on like the daily is the Hourglass Diffused Bronzed Light. And they sell this in the mini now at Sephora, so you don't have to spend a lot of money. This little mini has lasted me almost the entire year this year, and I still have quite a bit of product in here. And I know it doesn't look like it's going to be like a bronzer for the face, but you guys, it really is. It's just a stunning bronzy type. It's a very everyday bronzer. So if you don't want to look like, you know, you've really warmed up your face, but you want to put just a little bit of color back into your face, this is what you need to reach for. I use this one pretty daily. This goes in my purse. It kind of goes everywhere with me because this is like my everyday bronzer. Now, if I really want kind of a beached up, really warm skin bronzer, then this is what I reach for. And this is actually by Laura Geller, and it's one of the few products from her that I actually really, really love. This is actually her Beach Matte, and it's a baked hydrating bronzer. It's a very creamy formula, even though it's a powder. This is in Siesta Medium, and it has this really cool kind of quilted type texture to it. But you guys, this is a stunning bronzer. It really, really warms up the skin beautifully. There are a lot of different shades of this, so, and I love a good matte bronzer, but this looks gorgeous on the skin and it really does blend out beautifully. So definitely encourage you guys to give this one a try. This is my favorite if I really want to warm my face up like a lot and I really want that really pretty kind of beachy glow during the summertime. This is the one I reach for the most. And then if I'm doing anything special like going out to eat or filming or just going out period, then the one that I reach for is by Jouer, and this is their bronzing duo. This is also a gift from my husband. He got me this and I absolutely love it. This is in Sunlight and Suntan. This is the light to medium duo. The thing about this particular bronzing formula is this looks like, it looks like almost like a finishing powder when you put it on the skin because it has a smoothing property to it. So when you use this to bronze up your skin, it's also giving you a very airbrushed finish to the face, which I think is why everybody loves these blush and bronzer duos because the formula is amazing. So this is definitely what I'm reaching for if I'm going out or if I'm doing anything. This is the bronzer that I use. All right, so we're already getting long, so we're going to have to pick it up a little bit here. Next up is blush, two that I reach for pretty much every day. The first one is a Cheek to Chic blusher from Charlotte Tilbury, and this is in First Love. This is one of her swish and pop blushes where it's got kind of this color on the outside and then like a pop color on the inside. I just love this. This is a gorgeous everyday blush because of the tone. This is my most reached for everyday blush. And then if I feel like I need something with just a little bit more color to it, maybe not as nude, then I reach for a Jouer blush duo. And again, one of the reasons why this blush in particular is my favorite is because of that airbrushed finish it gives your skin. It just, these formulas just leave your skin looking stunning. And this one is the Adore blush duo. It's more of like kind of a pinky peach tone, and this gives me just a little bit more color to my cheeks. So if I'm looking for a little bit more color, this is what I reach for. If I want just a really pretty kind of nude wash of color, then I reach for the Charlotte Tilbury. But these are my two most popular blushes this past year. Next up, we're going to talk about Tightliners, and I am incredibly picky when it comes to tightlining my lashes, and I don't like a tightliner that bleeds down onto your lower lash line. I don't like a tight liner that smudges and doesn't stay put and stay really, really dark. I love for my lashes to look like they're a little more full than they really are. So tight lining is like an everyday process for me. So a good tight liner has to be long lasting. It has to be smudge proof, budge proof, life proof, and it has to be easy to use. So that nixes out like 50% of tight lining products out there, except for two. The first one is the Inglot eyeliner. Now this is the gel eyeliner from Inglot. Unfortunately, this can get a little messy for me when it comes to eyelining with this, but this is a great tight lining product. So I will just get a brush that looks like this, one of these really flat edge kind of brushes, and I'll dip it in here, and then I'll just go right on my lash line and tight line with this, and just let it dry down, and once it's there, it's not going anywhere. This stuff is budge proof, and it's like the blackest black in the entire world. So this stuff is amazing for tight lining, and I use this all the time. My second favorite is actually a product that I love. It's kind of old-fashioned, but I absolutely love it, and it's from Laura Mercier, and it's actually a cake tight liner. So for those of you that aren't familiar with what a cake pan tight liner is, this is actually a product that you have to add like a drop of water to, and then you stir it up with a brush, and it gets kind of to a liquidy consistency, and then I tight line with it. This one is been used and abused. You can see that I use this on pretty much a daily basis. Now, Laura Mercier also has a tight lining brush that she sells with this. So you put just a dab of water in here, honestly, not any more than that. You mix it up with the brush, and then you just take the brush and you just wiggle it right here along your lash line. And it's very black. It goes right where you put it. You don't have to worry about it bleeding, running, moving, going anywhere throughout the course of the day. I love this product. So if I'm not using the Inglot, then I'm using Laura Mercier. These are the only two things that I tight line with, and that is it. Next up is eyeliner. Now, my most reached for eyeliner out of this category, the middle to high-end category, is I have two. One of them is the Lollipop eyeliner from Beauty Bakery, mainly because this stuff is budge proof. It's not going to move. Once you put it on, it's stuck, it's not going anywhere. And this is one of the blackest blacks that I have ever seen out of an eyeliner, and it does have a beautiful felt tip. I absolutely love this eyeliner. Use this all the time. And then the next one was a surprise for me, and this was the Kat Von D Liner X that she came out with this year. This came out, and the marketing scheme behind this was that it was like a prototype, and she wanted to kind of try it out on everybody. Whatever it was, I absolutely loved it. And this one is in Trooper Black. It is a felt tip, and I think because that classic Trooper Black is just beautiful from Kat Von D. Everybody loves that kind of Trooper Black liquid eyeliner, and this one in a felt tip form is stunning, and I absolutely love this eyeliner. So I used either this one or this one. These were my two most used this year. Mid to high-end mascaras. Boy, a lot of companies came out with mascaras this year. Some of them were really cool and some of them were not so good. We reviewed a couple of them here on my channel and put them up against drugstore mascaras, and we were surprised more often than not that drugstore mascaras tended to outperform the mid to high-end mascaras, and that's genuinely the truth. There are very few mid to high-end mascaras out there that you can't find a dupe or something that works just as good as it in the drugstore space, because the drugstore space has really done a good job at mascara. So this was actually pretty easy for me because the field is pretty small when it comes to unique mascaras that you can't dupe in the drugstore space. The first one came out by Milk Makeup, and that is their Kush mascara. Now, this genuinely is a beautiful mascara. It has this huge, big, fluffy wand, and I absolutely love that. But the formula itself is a nice kind of fluffy formula. It makes your lashes look very thick and very fluffy like. I really fell in love with this mascara this year. This was definitely one that I reached for quite often in the mid to high end range. And then the only other one that I actually do reach for over my typical drugstore mascaras is the KKW Beauty Mascara. This one actually surprised me. I wasn't expecting this to be as good as it is. But I really, really love this mascara. I think I love the staying power of this mascara more than anything else. You do have to work kind of quickly with this mascara because it does dry down. And when it does dry down, it's like almost like hairspray for your eyelashes. But I love that because it holds my curl like all night long and I don't have to worry about my curl with this mascara. I do love the KKW Beauty Mascara. This one I feel like hasn't been replicated in the drugstore space. I love it. Next up, let's talk about brows. And to be honest with you guys, the Kat Von D, the Super Brow, the 24-hour Super Brow that she came out with, this is my second pot of this stuff. It's another one of those that when you use it, it just stays on. And as you can see, I am almost down to it with this one. I'm going to have to get another one fairly soon. But this stuff, when you get it, it really does stay put. And the color selection with this product is out of this world. Everybody can find an eyebrow color that you're going to love. And it's a stunning product. This year, MAC also came out with a really cool eyebrow product this year. This is called their Shape and Shade Brow Pen. This has like a felt tip brow marker on this end for really fine kind of hair-like strokes. And then on this end, you have a pomade that's got a little sponge here. And the pomade is actually down in here. So you kind of dip it in the pomade and then you use the little sponge tip applicator to really go in and fill in your brows. And I love this. I reach for these all the time. I actually have two. I have one in a dark color and then I have one in a lighter color. So that way I can do kind of some multi-dimensional stuff in my brows so they don't look, you know, kind of blocky and one color. And I love these. These are really long lasting. I think it was an ingenious idea and I reach for these all the time. Alright guys, so next up is highlighters, and honestly this one was really easy for me. So along with the contour wand that we talked about earlier, Charlotte Tilbury came out with a beauty light wand, and it's a liquid highlighter. It's got a little sponge tip applicator on it, but you guys, when you put this on the upper cheekbone area or anywhere that you want to spotlight on your face, it's just stunning and it blends in so beautifully. It just looks like skin. It just looks like your skin and it doesn't show any texture. It's absolutely stunning. It's my most reached for liquid highlighter that I have used this year. I love this formula. This next one is a brand new find, but it has quickly become my everyday favorite, and that is the Lunar Beauty Greek Goddess Highlighter Formula. And if you guys want to, you can go back and look at my Greek Goddess review. We talk about this highlighter palette. I use these two colors here in the middle the most, but this highlighter formula is by far my favorite, and I've reached for this every day since I've gotten it. And I realize it hasn't been that long, but I can promise you if I would have gotten this in January, we would probably already be hitting pan on a couple of these shades. This formula is stunning. Not only is it a beautiful highlighter on the skin, it doesn't show any texture. It just melts into the skin like it's a cream product, and it's not. It's a powder product, and that is amazing. This formula is gorgeous. Favorite highlighter of 2018. Alright guys, I'm going to save palettes for last. We're going to roll right into liquid lipstick formulas. And I really thought about this category, and I'm really picky when it comes to my matte liquid lipsticks or lipsticks that I put on my face. And when I think about the liquid lipstick that I have reached for above all others this year, it really comes down to one. And every time I wear it, inevitably somebody in the comments asks me what lipstick I have on. I wear this every single day. And say what you want about the woman, she made the best liquid lipstick formula of 2018. And that's Laura Lee and her liquid lipsticks that she came out with. For me in particular, it's the color Jaybird. I love this liquid lipstick. The formula is my favorite this year. I reach for this more than I reach for anything else. I carry it in my purse. I have it front and center on my vanity. I wear this liquid lipstick more than I wear anything else. This is like my signature liquid lipstick, and it's because it's so comfortable, it's so long lasting, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful formula. She knocked it out of the park when it comes to this liquid lipstick formula, and I honestly feel like she won the entire game in the year 2018. So that's Jaybird. It's just a beautiful plum color. She has some other colors, so definitely feel free to go to her website and check them out. The formula is stunning. It's my favorite liquid lipstick formula on the market to date. All right, palettes. This was hard. So every influencer in the world came out with a palette or two this year. All of the makeup companies came out with a palette or two this year. This was a very palette heavy year. So narrowing this down to the 4 palettes that I have was incredibly difficult, you guys. But I have narrowed it down to the 4 palettes that I use more than I use any other palette. We're going to start with one, and I'm going to make this my number 1 for 2018 because I really feel like this palette won 2018 specifically because of the creativity of this particular palette. And it's so funny because when you hold this palette up, everybody in the world knows what this is. And they go, oh my gosh, that's the Blood Sugar palette. It's that iconic. This palette will go down in history as one of the most iconic eyeshadow palettes ever produced. There is no way anybody could have a best palettes of 2018 and not have this included. The packaging was ingenious. This thing was, there is an inability to keep this in stock for like almost the entire year. Not only was the packaging ingenious, but the formula was amazing. He killed it. Jeffree Star slayed the game when it came to this particular palette. It was the first of its kind. It was so iconic. I definitely think that this palette won 2018 by a long shot. Now, when it comes to mid to high-end palettes that I reach for the most, I honestly have to throw this one in here, and that's Soft Glam. And that's because the Soft Glam palette really does have my everyday shades in here. So my everyday kind of go-to shades are all in this palette. I reach for it a lot. If I'm not reaching for this, I'm reaching for the Bad Habit dupe of this. I reach for the Bad Habit dupe of this when I don't have a lot of time, because the ABH formula does take a little bit more finesse when it comes to application, but it is stunning. It is a stunning, stunning palette. The color choice is amazing. This is probably my most reached for everyday palette for the entire year, and that's honestly because of the color layout. This is like a color layout that just has my name all over it. Next up was actually a recent discovery for me, but the formula just jumped out and just slapped me across the face. I did not realize how incredible the formula was in this particular product, and that is the Berries and Cream palette by Dominique Cosmetics. Dominique Cosmetics, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dominique Cosmetics, but this formula, you guys, is like, it makes me want to get the latte one that she originally came out with, because the formula is that good. This eyeshadow formula is one of the best eyeshadow formulas that I have ever seen. And she came out with a lemonade palette. There's like a latte palette, and then of course she has this palette as well. So from an influencer perspective, I mean, I would put this formula above the Nudie Patootie from Laura Lee. I would put the formula itself even probably above the Lunar Beauty formula, and that's a stunning formula as well. I don't know that I would put it above Jeffree Star, but I would put it in the same category. This formula it's insane. If you've never stuck your finger in a Dominique Cosmetics palette, the next time you're in Sephora, just try it. Just stick your finger in it and just play with it a little bit. You'll be amazed. They blend effortlessly on the eye, and I can't stress that enough. They almost blend themselves. This is a gorgeous formula, and she should be commended on the exceptionalism that came out of these palettes. These palettes this year, stunning. Then, of course, how can I talk about palettes of 2018 without talking about this bad boy? So Melt Cosmetics came out with actual palettes this year, and one of the palettes they came out with that broke the internet was the Gemini palette. This sucker was the palette to be had this year. There was a point in time where you couldn't buy it and people were losing their minds. But it is because it is so gorgeous. You have these very unusual, unique colors here, and then these kind of everyday colors down here. So it makes it a very different palette. And I think the creativity and the ingenuity that went into this palette, the marketing that went into it, the insane demand for it. If you say Gemini palette, pretty much everybody knows what you're talking about. That has got to be a win for 2018. Was definitely one of the most memorable palettes of 2018. Melt Cosmetics has one of the best eyeshadow palette formulas in the game. I don't think their stacks are as good as their palette formulas, but we'll save that for another video. Their palette formulas, however, are stunning, and this one will definitely be one to remember from this year. Alright guys, so that is it. That is my rundown of my most used mid to high-end products of 2018. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments what your most used products were out of this category for this past year. I would love to hear what you guys used all year long this year. If you are new here, welcome. Feel free to hit the subscribe button on your way out. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Erica Approved. Come be part of the Approved crew. I would love to have you. As always, guys, I hope everybody is very happy and very healthy. And I will see you guys in the next video. Mwah.